Thank you.
And we are going to go into a quick commercial spot for SNA displays, and then we are going to go into our last panel of the day. Hang tight, everybody.
I'm Randy Bird with Sensor Interactive. I'm the president and CEO of the company. When it comes to Miracle Mile shops, there would have to be some type of large presence on the strip. It would be in the form of LED displays. Ultimately, we landed with the best hardware and software and installer in SNA.
My name is Rasul Saeed, and I'm a project manager with SNA Displays. The Miracle Mile Shops was built in the year 2000, right in the heart of the strip, adjacent to Planet Hollywood. The reason why this was such a massive undertaking was the fact that it was built in 2000, where we didn't have nearly as much technology as we do today.
There was a coordination of steel and having an existing building and not knowing what was behind some of those walls that you couldn't take down until we physically started construction. There's a very complex curve on the project, but it's a concave convex curve coming together. That was a challenge. People that install steel don't realize the exact tolerance levels that are needed by these displays to the millimeters.
I'm Dave Cowell. I am the Senior Director of Solutions with SNA Displays. My team developed and installed all of the CMS systems between the LED displays and the kiosks. We built all of the racks for all the playback equipment and processing equipment in our Knoxville lab. Fully pre-wired, tested, commissioned, and then shipped to site. And then our team came from Knoxville and wired all of those racks together, commissioned the entire rack room. So the minute they turned on an LED display or a kiosk, we were ready to push content.
SNA has helped in terms of fulfilling all of the technical sides of it with the hardware and the software that goes into making this a great experience.
In total, throughout the Miracle Mile shops, we've installed over 21,000 square feet of LED display. The LED displays on the interior of the property are primarily used for advertising purposes. We also installed 17 digital kiosks throughout the property. What's unique about the digital kiosks is that depending on where you come in from the mall, you'll always find at least one kiosk that has a digital touch interface that you can interact with to figure out where you're going.
It is a complete network where it allows a single brand to take over the entire opportunity at one time.
Most notably, on the exterior of the Miracle Mile shops, we installed a digital spectacular display, which is the largest one on site at the north entrance and second largest at the south entrance.
The facade of Miracle Mile shops is defined by the LED displays. Ultimately followed the lines of the storefronts. Both of them will show the same content at the same time. So the person at the north entrance would see the same thing as a person at the south entrance.
At the north entrance, you can't engulf the entire design and image that the display is giving you from one angle. It incorporates a circular shape, it wraps corners, and it also has a very large straight section directly above the entrance. Last but not least, around the corner from the south entrance display, we've installed a double-sided LED blade sign.
We use blade signs often because lots of vehicular traffic that moves down Harmon, coming from the airport, coming from the games at times. This is a case where it's front and center. There's lots of people on the strip looking at the displays. There's events on the strip that are looking at these displays. And all day long, there's advertisers on here that expect the best quality.
Miracle Mile is a great example of SNA's turnkey solution, where we deliver a complete system that is ready to turn on and run your display the minute it shows up on site. I really enjoy what we do behind the scenes to make something that the public sees so spectacular.
Given the global attention that Las Vegas brings, it's been such a joy to work at the Miracle Mile shops to showcase our products and what we have to offer this dynamic market that consistently moves forward.
All right, everyone. I hope you guys are ready for our last panel of the day. Thank you again to SNA Displays for being part of that last panel. But the one coming up is all about smarter meetings, AI's role in the future of collaboration. And I have some very fun people who are going to help me talk about that today. So let's bring them on. We have Frank Patakala, Lauren Simon, Dave Hatz, and Byron Terry. Welcome, you guys.
Hey, how's it going?
Here.
So I'm going to first go around and ask each of you to kind of talk a little bit about yourselves and what you do. Byron, do you want to start?
Sure, I'd love to. Well, I'm, I guess, perhaps unique, and I'm in the midst of trying to start something new after 30 years in the industry, but launched at Infocom, and you'll see lots of exciting stuff coming in the next couple of months as we get out of the summer season around Next and this premise of transformation in an AI age and how we enable the industry around that.
Very cool. Frank?
Frank Patakala. I'm a senior technical sales architect for Zoom. My area of expertise is Zoom Spaces, so all things Zoom rooms and digital signage and all that stuff. And when I'm not doing that, I'm doing stuff like this, talking to our wonderful rAVe community and just interacting with people. I'm so glad to be here. And rAVe and Steph, thank you for the opportunity.
Of course. Dave?
So I am Vice President of Machine Intelligence for CTI. So we're a large system integrator. My role is really championing AI sort of evangelism in the industry for CTI and our customers, as well as internally at CTI. So very much in the thick, leading teams that are developing with AI, talking with customers, and just really helping, make the rubber meet the road, really living in the challenges, getting the bruises, but really, just adopting it at all facets of everything this industry does every day, day in and day out.
Perfect. And Lauren?
Awesome. So I am the head of video marketing for Jabra, really focusing on a lot of different things, bringing our technologies in a way to our customers that actually makes sense, working with our wonderful partners like Zoom on how do we integrate our technologies together to drive better experiences, which I think is exactly what we're going to be talking about today. But that's a little bit about what I do.
Perfect. So I'm going to start with you, Frank. So Zoom has rolled out multiple AI-powered features in recent years, and I would love to know which capabilities have had the biggest impact on meeting productivity so far and why.
Awesome question. Thank you for that. When we talk about meetings, and I'm going to kind of go on a little bit of a tangent before we get into the features of it, because there's things about meetings that we don't always notice, right? There's the invisible challenges. So there's two things. One is the friction that slows us down. Every meeting has some form of friction. And the second one are the gaps that are exclusive. They don't promote inclusivity. There's the question of who's remote, who's hybrid, who's in the office. So those are the two things that we at Zoom have been targeting with all these AI functional features that you're getting to know more of. Zoom is a very much AI first work platform, but the goal of AI is always to build that human connection, right? So when you look at it from removing meeting friction, you have AI companion. It goes beyond transcription. So what we're seeing is people are now using it to capture key points, understanding decisions. We don't miss anything in the meeting anymore, right? And so you're able to focus in the meeting because you have AI companion running, giving you that wonderful overall view of what's happening. And beyond that, right, we get instant explanation. How many times during a meeting have you heard something which you didn't hear? And you're kind of like, if you're in the office, you're nudging someone. What did they just say? What did they just say? Or the worst of them all, which, we all do, a side chat going with your work bestie. What did they just say, right? Well, you don't need to do that anymore. You pose a question to AI Companion and you get the response. You can recap what was happened live during the meeting. And we take it a step further, right? How many times have you looked into a meeting room that has 30 people in there and somebody says this most amazing thing and you're asking each other, who said that? Because remote, you have no idea. That's where we have things like smart name tags coming into play, which actually lets you identify these things. Now, the thing is, smart name tags takes it even further in your transcripts. It's so important to give validation to people who said things. And these are kind of the AI functional features on that friction part we're doing. But even from the equity part, we have intelligent director. Intelligent director at a day-to-day level gives you that equity. It's meeting equity. It gives you your best camera angle so that people all feel like they're part of the same meeting. I think with the pandemic and the evolution of how meetings have seen and gone, we've seen like a swing essentially. Like we've seen, there was a time when we used to think that people in the office benefit greatly from the technologies that us cool AV people install. And we're like, the remote really isn't that great. And then it went the other way with amazing things. We were using broadcast level stuff at home, and we were like, well, now the office camera sucks.
Yeah.
And, my home camera is much better, right? So we've seen this back and forth swinging. We need equity. We need everyone to be a part of the same meeting. So I think that's what we're doing, regardless of the language, your setup, your location. You should be able to have a seamless meeting. And, that's kind of what Zoom's been playing at.
No, that's amazing. Dave, from the integrator's perspective, where are you seeing the most demand for AI in meeting spaces, and how are you adapting your designs to meet that?
Yeah, so I think one thing, I love the question, Steph. One thing though I want to call out is the demand isn't from, especially our customers coming to us saying, bring AI to us.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important that we all frame it. We get in a call like this or a event like this, and we talk about AI as the focus. But the reality is, in the real world, AI shouldn't necessarily be the lead of the focus. It's how do we have a better meeting experience in the room? How do we have, as an integrator, how do we more effectively service our customers? And so there's a couple that really come to mind for me that are starting to emerge. These aren't even fully matured yet, but the first is how we configure our systems.
Yeah.
For decades, our techs go out and they take a bunch of boxes and they connect wires. And then they go into web portals and pick up remote controls. And ideally, they go through and optimize this system in every setting and every experience. And we get to a point where we say that room is commissioned, it's certified, it's ready to go. And if everything happens properly, we have a pretty good chance of a good experience for the end user. And what happens is it's Friday and the tech wants to go home at 3:30 instead of staying till 5. And so they forget the last setting or two. Well, enter AI. And we're starting to see the emergence of AI-powered tools that help expedite the commissioning and the certification of systems, not even just pieces of equipment, but systems. And so this is an area I'd say watch over the next 3 to 6 months, because we're going to really see some thought leaders in this space. We're going to see some manufacturers doing these kinds of things, but to really help ensure that systems are truly set up and configured properly and fully, I'll say. And at the end of it, the end users really notice. They really appreciate it. And as an integrator, it allows us to be faster. It allows us to do, the quality, specification and put a human eye on the final product without spending quite as much time in the weeds. The other area I'll say that's really starting to emerge is in the control and automation space. And I would extend this even to the management of the technology. Again, the meeting experience is, for decades, we've had, humans that said, okay, I'm going to take all these disparate products and I'm going to craft that experience. Well, a handful of years ago, that started to shift, and we really see, we're following the lead of Zoom. We're following the lead of Teams and WebEx as, that central experience for the user from the basic standpoint. But there's still areas where we, extend that, we augment that to create the I won't say bespoke, but the nuanced experience that really keeps rooms and systems simple for end users. And so as we're seeing AI tools enter the control space, we're seeing the dynamic of how we approach that differently. We're starting to see the emergence of tools that don't require you to craft logic for every single progression of a workflow that might possibly happen. And I actually think that's a really good thing, because as an ex-programmer, I overthought so many systems on the rare case of just in case they need it. Well, now, if a system can actually have that capability without me having to put energy into it, and yet keep it crafted to what's important to the end user. I think that's a really, really important thing. And spoiler alert in all of this does not mean control systems are gone. Control system programmers don't have a place in our industry. There is absolutely, and we could go on for an hour on that topic, but there absolutely is a space. So again, these are two of the areas I would say from an integrator standpoint are probably the most interesting, have the most opportunity here, and really still champion the value that an integrator brings, but they require some thinking about things a little different, some embracing a bit of uncomfortable area from just the way we've always done it. But again, AI is at the center of delivering it, not we're doing it because of AI.
No, that was fantastic. Lauren, how do you think AI is shaping the way devices handle audio and video processing to create more inclusive meeting experiences?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different things that we have to think about from a manufacturer and a hardware side of this. From the physical hardware, right? We have to think about, we need to build these products with a lot more headroom, so that as technology changes constantly and is constantly evolving, we don't want to deliver a product that in 6 months the next greatest thing comes out and we don't have the space to support it on our hardware. So that's one of the things that has really, a lot of manufacturers have done that over the years, but it's something that we really have to think about of how far can this processor go? How much can we handle and maintain? On the more software side, there's kind of two pieces of it, right? We have what's built on the edge, and really ensuring that you have those crisp, clear switches and being able to figure out where people are and locate people in a room. But then there's also the working with the guys like Zoom and Teams and WebEx to ensure that our capabilities don't clash with theirs, and that they can actually work to enable a better enhanced AI experience. And one of the places we're seeing that is in things like meeting transcription. When you have audio, or these are things that we have to think about, is building the audio piece of the device, that we need crisp, clear audio coming from, with the directional pieces of it, to ensure that your transcriptions are accurate. Because if you have muffled sounds, if you have a lot of background noise, that could interfere with the transcriptions, especially when you have a lot of people in a room. And so, we've seen a lot of the transcriptions on the person to person, right? Everybody is remote, but when you start putting a bunch of people in the room, that's where it starts to get a little bit more fuzzy. And so we really, the audio pieces that we take into account to ensure a great audio experience in the room, we also have to ensure a great audio pickup experience so that we can enhance the AI technologies that a Zoom and a Teams are putting out there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Byron, the work that you're doing is actually really, really cool. So from that and helping organizations adopt AI, what is the biggest barrier that you're seeing in moving from like curiosity about AI into actual deployment in spaces like meeting spaces?
Yeah, well, I don't think curiosity is the problem right now. I think everyone is curious and interested in what this means. I think I think they're more just paralyzed by the immensity of it and so on. But I guess let me preface this. A lot of this was sort of what's it mean for the meeting room, but I think I want to step back a little bit to start that we do spend a lot of our time talking about that, but actually it's very difficult to sort of innovate and transform what we deliver to our customers if we're not looking at that internally. I love Dave's comments of looking at that internal delivery process is probably more important. That we've been having some discussions around the premise of MCP coming into AI and what's that likely to do in that programming space and so on. And so I think we have to focus on what that internal proposition is. But I think that curiosity to deployment problem is one that we're almost not, as an industry, not very well wired for. If you go and look at a lot of our tech sector customers that we deal with and so on, they have this inherent sort of experimentation, the Google X Labs premise of fail fast, fail forward, and so on. And I think for lots of reasons in our industry that we don't need to get into, we struggle with some of that. And in this moment of agility, in this moment of change, this moment that we have to be testing new things, if we don't have that, be it from an executive level, creating the structures to enable that, and then empowering the front lines who are actually more digitally native, more on the front lines of the tactical, practical problems we can go solve, then we really struggle with that move to deployment. Whether that's from playing around and experimenting to tangible POC, and ultimately to deciding what we should be scaling from there.
Absolutely. So, Frank, I'm going to shift it back to you. Looking ahead, what do you think is the next frontier for AI in collaboration platforms like Zoom? And how do you think it's going to change the user experience?
Awesome. Before I get into that, can I just shout out Lauren for an excellent comment there in terms of audio, right? I know a lot of our audience today are pro AV folks, and as we go on this deep dive into AI and how it's changing our day to day, we kind of lose sight of the fact that we are at our core, like Byron said, very technical people, and our minds still function a lot in terms of boxes, right? Dave, as an integrator, sees that every day. We're a very box-driven industry, right? Now, AI is not coming in to replace any of those boxes. It's supposed to make your boxes better. And AI cannot do that without good audio and video. So to all those people who still doubt the coexistence of AI and AV, please understand that AI is here to make your experiences much, much better, because AI still needs eyes and ears, right? In the past, you had CEOs complaining, or regular people complaining about your conference room. Now you're going to have AI complaining too. So good luck. You're going to have more people complaining. But to your question, Steph, we have meetings, right? And I love talking about meetings because it's a pain point for a lot of us.
Right.
And you're moderating your 4th session today. On another day, this could have been your 4th meeting of the day, right?
Yeah.
And you're trying to keep track of, what am I going into? How many times have you walked into a meeting and thought, what is this meeting about? And if you're the kind of person that doesn't mind saying that aloud, you'll actually say that. Hey, what are we doing here, right? So it takes us a good 5 to 10 minutes just to get the thing into sync and just everybody understanding. And then there's one person that says, oh my goodness, I forgot to bring the documents. I can't find the drive. Now, take all of that and imagine somebody doing that for you. That is the next frontier in AI, the world of agentic AI. Bingo. That's a buzzword right there. I mean, you're hearing agentic every day. I'm sorry, I had to use it though. The reality is, agentic is when AI is a proactive participant in your day-to-day function, whether that's a meeting or an install or whatever, and giving you the help that you so much need to become more efficient. It is about enhancing your efficiency, making you better, and then putting those meetings into context. How many times have we wished if our meetings had, we should have recorded all the meetings from the beginning of this project, because we could have gone back and identified where we went wrong, right? Well, now you can do that. You don't have to do it. It's proactively being done for you. So the reality is, agentic functionality is already here. It's about adopting these things. I think the next frontier, as a question back to the audience, is, how are you preparing yourself for this new world of AI? What have you done? And I'll throw it back to you, Steph. Thank you for that question.
Of course. So, Dave, we got an interesting comment in from an audience member, but it kind of leads into the next question I had for you. So, Glenn says, can we go back to talking about features and how they make systems better instead of talking about AI powered XYZ?
Yes.
Would love if people say their sound bar is de-reverberating voices and it makes conversations clearer. That's a feature and a benefit. Calling it AI sound processing is like telling someone who doesn't care about cars about the fuel injectors on a car, which absolutely correct.
Yes.
But, so that's kind of one of the challenges. And I was going to ask, what are the challenges that you face when you're integrating these AI-powered systems into existing infrastructure, and how do you overcome those?
Well, I go back to the comment I made earlier a little bit too, that it's about chasing real business challenges, real integration challenges. Don't start talking about AI. Start talking about, how do you enable people to better collaborate? Frank, to your ask about those friction points when you're starting to introduce yourself to a client. Talking through, what are their stocks? What is keeping them from being more productive? What weighs them down? Then look for what is in your tool set to help them. And if AI powered solutions are part of that, great. If they're not, great. it's like we can't be hunting for AI problems to solve.
Yeah.
And that is one of the biggest things I see, because if you start looking for anywhere in your business, whether it's integration focused or just in your front office, if you start looking for AI problems to solve, I will almost guarantee you're going to have some level of failure of adoption, because the people sitting around your company aren't looking for you to solve their AI challenges. Likely, they're looking for you to solve their efficiency or their meeting challenges. So that's a big one for me. If you get into, so let's say we get into actually talking integrating solutions, I'd say, around the data, there is really the next wave of challenges I typically run into. If we're talking, Frank, if we're talking integrating software systems, because a lot of times we get into, cloud architecture, we start integrating our CRM to our ERP to other systems so we can work better. Well, you get into a lot of complexity around data, and that could be just the complexity to move and share data from one place to another, systems, encryption, both when the data is stored and in movement, you get compliance. And you also just get into this idea of just the cleanliness of data. How usable is data? A big part of my team's focus right now is, CTIs have been a very data focused organization for many, many years. And yet there's still some spots where we have so much data, we need to put a layer of cleaning it up and transforming it to make it more consumable. And that's what we're doing on a number of projects. If we go the other way, if we're talking about, integrating different devices, different systems, sort of that concept of getting into systems configuring themselves more. Well, now you get into a complexity of the APIs and the capabilities of the different devices to integrate together. Same thing we've, as an industry, have fought for decades, quite honestly. And, Byron, you mentioned this is a spot where MCP, or Model Context Protocol, is sort of an emerging potential standard, I'll say, that has some promise to help us here. It's really sort of aimed at helping agentic solutions talk to each other and be able to talk about their capabilities and just sort of figure things out without us scripting every bit of it. The last one, though, I want to highlight, and I think this is one that's really underestimated a lot, is just the change management around humans. It's changing our behaviors. I think we would all say our industry is not fast moving. We are slow to adopt something different, something radically different. We are slow to change. And this is a case where the technology is changing at such a fast pace. It's really hard. I would say, I bet everyone on this call here, we are following the bleeding edge as much as we can. And I bet all of us would say we're overwhelmed. We can't keep up. And so now take that to the average, person anywhere in our industry. It's really, really easy to just write it off and say, yeah, I know it's important, but I'm going to wait for someone to spoon feed me. I'm going to wait for someone to figure it out, and then I'll figure it out. Mm-hmm. And so, anytime we're talking about a new direction of solution, a new innovation, I think it's really important to keep in mind that resistance to change that exists, inertia, building it slowly, and really being very intentional about the approach you take. Again, there's so much you could go into there, but I think that is it's easy to underestimate that, because again, we get into the technical solution, and often the biggest challenges we have aren't the technology, it's everything else around it.
Right. No, absolutely. Lauren, so some of the AI features that we've kind of talked about today are things like noise suppression and intelligent framing, and these kind of are becoming almost a standard. How do you balance adding new capabilities with keeping your devices intuitive for the users?
Yeah, so it's something that we really have to look at, right? To a lot of the points here, it has to be simple. And that's the beauty of what AI has been able to prove. If you look back, go back 10 years in video conferencing, it didn't really exist. You were conferencing bridges into, the star phones on the center of the table. Then we moved to oh my goodness, we can see a whole room with one camera. That's fantastic. And that was good enough. And then we moved into COVID, where everybody had a square. And we started to realize, hey, this meeting equity thing is really kind of cool. how do we bring that into the meeting space? And that's really where, I mean, even from the beginning, that's all been driven by some level of AI. And so what we've been able to do is just take on that and build to look at those new experiences and what is going to simplify what used to be a very manual process. And that's kind of the balance that we look at when we're developing what's coming next, is eliminating some of that manual work, Dave, that you've been talking about, of the configurations and the programming. I mean, you used to have a broadcast crew to come in and shoot 2 or 3 cameras. Now you can do it off of one because it does it all for you. And so it reduces that strain and those pressure points that our customers are facing. And that's really what we kind of go into it with the context of. So when we look at kind of new features that are coming, everybody expects speaker tracking. That has become, that's the baseline.
Yeah.
And then noise suppression. And there's always been a level of noise suppression in soundbars and integrated audio. Just by nature of it, it needs to be there. But now it's getting smart, right? Can it decipher when people are clapping in the background versus when a rapper is being, crumpled or whatever it might be? Can it pull out the right noises? Because we went into a position where, we went so deep with noise suppression that it cut every background noise out. And you would see a room of people clapping and you couldn't actually hear them clapping. And it just kind of gave that weird, unnatural experience. So we're looking at how do we take these experiences, make them that natural, more human-centric, right? That's really the basis of everything that we have to do. Some of the newer features that are coming out, or they've been around but are starting to gain more notoriety, things like acoustic fencing. So we've had visual framing where we can map out, okay, this is our room. We have an industry full of glass walls. Anything behind the glass wall we don't want to talk about, or we don't want to see. We don't want that to trigger our speaker tracking. But there's also audio that's coming from there. And so now we're seeing, I think, much more prevalence of acoustic fencing, and not only audio, but, video and audio outside. Don't want to deal with that. But again, it kind of goes back to what's the easiest thing? What problem are we solving for the customer? We could go, 1,000 miles down the road and have these really complex systems, but is it what the customer needs to create that better experience? And that's really what we have to focus on. So working with guys like Dave and Frank with your organizations, of what are those issues that we're seeing, and then how do we solve them simply using the AI?
Yeah. No, great points. Byron, how do you think AV and IT leaders can ensure that their AI investments align with their long-term transformation goals rather than chasing the more short-term tech trends that kind of come up?
Well, I mean, we just, even in some of the discussion, we get caught in feature of acoustic fencing and things like that, and so on. And, I think the issue at the moment is the horizon for long-term planning has been shorter than it's ever been. And so how do you manage that proposition and so on? I was excited as Frank, you were starting to talk about this premise of agentic coming in. The thing that actually most excites me about AI in our space is not the feature. In fact, so many of those features as an integrator, you can only do so much with. It's in the box, and whether it was an AI feature or not, we get a lot of AI washing to say, put AI on the front of the box and it's a feature. But I get interested in what will the meeting dynamic look like? We're very used to this one-to-one collaboration now with AI, but what happens when we end up with digital collaborants that are starting to actively contribute in the room and so on? So as you start to look at that from a planning standpoint, I think it doesn't mean you abandon long-term thinking, but I think the nature of some of those goals needs to shift. Instead of chasing the perfect solution today, a focus on platform and that partner's potential longevity to the architectures that are going to be agile enough to evolve. Because I don't think any of us sitting at this table or in the audience, you really can say what a meeting is going to look like in 18 months, 2 years, let alone these sort of 5-year CapEx life cycles that we're looking at. The other piece that I'd say around this sort of goal and objective alignment and us getting away from our inherent industry focus on the speeds and feeds and so on is in the metrics, in the measurement and so on. That's what tends to be focused on the objective that we're looking for. And I think there's huge opportunity. I've had discussions with various, including some of the companies represented here, as we start to think about how can we take some of what's even happening in digital signage, what's happening in call center and so on, and take AI and actually start to really measure objectives better than what is it on, is it broken, how many people were in the room and so on. And so I think that's what starts to excite me. If we can use this uncertainty of not knowing the answers to actually start to force ourselves to pivot into some different focuses, some different recognition of what the outcome and objective is, not the path to get there, then that can actually start to help us as an industry as much as it helps our customers in sort of having those longer term perspectives and so on. But look, no one wants to be here straight-faced telling a customer they should buy a piece of hardware on a 5-year CapEx lifecycle when that piece of hardware could be redundant in 12 or 18 months.
Absolutely. And I know we're kind of like going over time a little bit, but I did want to ask you guys one more question. And this one's just to everybody. Whoever wants to take this first can take this. But if you could give one piece of advice to organizations that are exploring AI for their meeting spaces, what would it be?
I can jump in. I'll go first.
Go ahead.
Not to get focused on the term AI, understanding what is the problem that you're trying to solve, and are there AI solutions that can help simplify and streamline that process for you? I think so often we get caught up in it's AI, we got to do AI, we got to do AI. We're missing what are we actually trying to solve.
Mm-hmm.
So start there and then figure out what are the right AI tools to help you solve those problems.
I'd say to build on that, be curious. Be willing to think different. And that means making yourself a little vulnerable, but be open to not knowing how this is going to play out and try something. Small things are just as and actually probably more powerful than big things. Don't try to rethink everything because of AI. Rethink one little step. Again, to your point, Lauren, make sure it matters. Mm-hmm. And then apply AI, be open to try it. Don't wait for perfection. Get it out there for others to try and see if it sticks. And if it doesn't, you learned something. And if it does, you learn something. Yes. And then you take another step and go fast with those steps. And that's what gets you progress. This idea of AI is going to change everything. Well, yeah, it is. But it doesn't need to just throw everything out and start scratch. Again, that will have so much resistance to it. Small steps, meaningful steps, learn from each one. It will get you there so much quicker.
The piece of advice that I'd have for organizations is be transparent, because it's very important for individuals to understand what AI is doing for them. A lot of times there's so much AI behind the scenes, and unfortunately our minds have been framed in the concept of AI with science fiction and all these things that have existed way before AI became a functional part of our day-to-day lives. It's important for organizations to frame the messaging, be transparent, show them, hey, this is what we've done with the data. This is how it's helped you. And those are the conversations that supervisors and managers need to be having with the individual who's tasked with now using this new AI-driven tool. So be transparent.
So perhaps I can, I just want to sort of comment in retrospect on some of that stuff. AI is like electricity. It's not the answer and so on. It's just the enabling tool and so on. But I love Dave's comments of starting small and so on. But I'd add something to that, and that is then reinvest. We're in a moment now where you have to start to create space to reinvest that time. So don't just take that and be more efficient and go and keep doing the same things you're doing with that efficiency, with that opportunity, but take that time and start to build that over time. Like interest, it'll grow, and maybe at some point you'll now be up to 2, 3, 4 hours a week where you can start to experiment. The flip side of that at an organizational structural level and so on, and as we look at our end customer who we're delivering this to and so on, while we struggle to change, so do big organizations, so does enterprise, so does the inertia of that. And so I think as the technologists, we have to also be starting to look at how we enable the infrastructure that wraps around that. The finance person that is stuck on buying this, in a CapEx model and so on. And so I think we can look at those investments in two ways. Technical investments as how we continue to learn and treat our own professional development and so on, but also investments in education and time, sharing our stories. I don't think anyone's been more open right now to things are going to be different. So let's challenge what different might look like. But we need to be practical in that and now start to bring real and tangible reasons and explanations and opportunities to the fore.
Absolutely. So, last thing I'm going to ask all of you is to each go around and talk about where people can find you and more information about your companies on the internet. Byron, do you want to go ahead and start?
Sure. So I guess the usual places. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can also find Next on LinkedIn. www.nextnow.com is the email address. The web address. And I would say if you're interested in what we're doing and what's coming in terms of some sort of wider places to be trusted to come and find information relevant to the industry and so on, within the next month, we'll be launching a digital community. But if you go to the website on the main page and just sign up to be kept in the loop, then we'll be sure to keep you appraised of some of those things coming soon.
Perfect. Frank?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Frank Patakala, and Zoom is at zoom.com.
Perfect. Dave?
LinkedIn's the best place to find me. You'll see I talk about AI a lot. I put out a weekly video focused largely with the Microsoft team. Call it our AI prompt of the week. So catch those. Those are just 1 to 2 to 3 minute short clips of a very tactical tip, something that you can use AI for. And while we show it around Copilot, it doesn't have to be just Copilot. It can apply typically to others. So try to get really helpful on the grassroots side there. You'll see me, I'm going to be at Infocom India speaking on AI there on stage. ISE is still up in the air right now, but just follow me on LinkedIn. You'll be able to take advantage of the messages I'm sharing. And then CTI.com for all things that CTI as a whole is up to.
Perfect. Lauren?
You can find me, Lauren Simon, on LinkedIn. That's the best way to reach out to me. And then for Jobber, it's jobber.com.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys so much. And thanks for sticking around a little longer because I was having too good of a time. I didn't want to say goodbye to y'all yet. So thank you for hopping on and being a part of this. I appreciate it, you guys.